Inzaghi looked at, communicated with, courted by Manchester United, then offered the job in the last few weeks and said no. Options are thin on the ground for Manchester United. There is a board meeting, as we know, as being reported by The Athletic, which is going on Tuesday. That was always in the calendar, no matter what was happening with Erik ten Hag and United's performances. Obviously, that may be top of the bill now, and that discussion may go ahead, but it was originally in plan. So is it really going to be brought up? It's going to be said that this game tomorrow against Aston Villa is do or die for Ten Hag. We will see how that goes. Manchester United have other options as well, with more reports coming out about Van Nistelrooy taking over till the end of the season if Ten Hag is sacked, and then top targets in Xabi Alonso and Julian Nagelsmann coming out in reports as well over the last couple of days. We'll talk about all of that. We'll get your opinions. We'll look ahead to who we think should be starting in that game against Aston Villa. What can United do to actually get a win against Aston Villa? Is there anything that we can do, set-up-wise, player-wise? How do Manchester United get that win that Ten Hag so apparently desperately needs? This is Rev United TV. It is your Saturday morning. The weekend is here. Football is back. So all the talking gets put aside for a couple of days until probably, let's just say, around about 4:30 Sunday afternoon. Super Sunday will be on. I can't even remember who's playing now in that later Sunday game, but all the talk will be of what's happening with Manchester United. Are we going to be with Ten Hag after the international break? What's going to happen in that meeting with Ineos on Tuesday? It does really come down to that performance and result against Aston Villa. Like, if United get the win, I think it's easy. I think I'm in the camp of, as you already know, Ten Hag has to go. I don't think he's good enough. But have Ineos backed themselves into a corner here, and it is now virtually impossible to get the target that they want in the midway through the season? Are they having to hold their hands up and say, we balls up the summer? The decisions and the faffing around and the indecisiveness on whether to keep Ten Hag or not in the summer could be coming back to kick them in the arse a little bit right now. And I feel like that is the realistic look on things and how we are right now with everything. But Manchester United, obviously, yesterday we heard from Sir Jim Radcliffe. If you listen to the actual interview, it's actually on our Twitter page. Like we've said before, with quotes and certain things that are said, when you read them out off a quote, it sounds a lot different and it can sound a lot more, I think, hard-hitting. Let's just say that when you actually listen to it. It's like with Ten Hag. To give him his dues, like, he gets quoted a lot. I do read a lot of quotes out, and sometimes when I go back and listen, it's completely different. So Jim Radcliffe, when he was talking about Ten Hag, the managerial situation and everything like that, if you listen to the interview properly after we reported it last night, it does sound a little bit different than what it's read as. And it looks like Sir Jim Radcliffe is ready to make a big decision if his team isn't, let's just say. That's how it sort of sounds anyway. He's expecting the people that he's put in place with the reputations that they've got to make big calls. That's why they're being paid the big bucks, and that's why they're in the jobs they are. I think that's his message, really, from that interview. And he just talks about Erik ten Hag being a good manager and a good coach, and then move on past that. It's down to results, and ultimately the end goal is getting United back up there, and we're not there at the moment. Simple as, job done. So Jim Radcliffe, really probably at the time, wasn't really hoping to be talking about football, but was just asked the question, and he's had to answer it in the way that he did, in the position that he was, which looked quite comfortable, to be honest, where he was. Obviously dealing with his team over there, is it Ainsley and the sailing team and everything that he's got. It's one of them, you can take what you want from it, but we all know, and the reality is, we're watching what we're watching on the pitch, and it's not going well for United. The season is the worst that we've ever had in terms of starts, and the pressure is going to be on Ten Hag tomorrow. What has been said in the media, and from Italy in particular, around Inzaghi, getting into that, is that Manchester United have been talking to Inzaghi. They've been communicating with his representatives for days now, weeks in fact, according to Italian journalists. And they're saying that Manchester United, in the last few days, have offered Inzaghi the job at Manchester United, with him taking over immediately in the international break, obviously next week after the game against Villa tomorrow. And he has turned it down. He is happy at Inter Milan. Why wouldn't you be? He speaks the local tongue, which apparently doesn't speak English, so that's going to be awkward. And lots of people have come back on here, and people who have a go at me or disagree with me have said the same thing, and they've all said, look, why would he want to come to Manchester United right now when he's got it made there in Italy, in Milan? He's successful, he's winning things, he's taking Italy further, and you look at Manchester United as a prospect, it is a poison chalice, and every manager coming into Manchester United has fallen off since Alex Ferguson. And I think a lot of managers would look at the aftermath of some of their managers' careers and what it did to their careers and probably think twice about it. So, again, it comes back to what I said at the start of the show, when Ineos making that mistake and not being decisive enough in the summer. Obviously, the talks with Thomas Tuchel, you only have to look at what Jamie Carragher says. And we take what Jamie Carragher says, obviously, with Liverpool viewed punditry eyes on and everything like that, and that sort of snigger and laugh behind the actual comments that he's making. But he is serious when he says, look, and whichever way you look at it, whichever way you look at the situation, they was looking for another manager in the summer. They wouldn't have interviewed everybody that they did. It really annoyed Ten Hag. That's why he came out with the reaction that he did. And now you're looking at the situation where it's too late. You're going to have to keep Ten Hag or give it to his number 2, Ruud van Nistelrooy. It just doesn't work with Eric. And people will always say, what happens, well, who do we bring in if Eric goes then? It's not a reason to keep Ten Hag if it's not working for him. And whether or not this Sunday is, in fact, the day where it is all decided, I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's like the FA Cup final all over again. If you win, you keep your job. If you don't, you lose your job. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's embarrassing for Manchester United. It really is. Anyway, I can't even... like I said, we're talking right now, and I said this yesterday. All eyes will be on Ineos right now. Everybody knows what's happening with Ten Hag and the situation and the team and everything that's going wrong with United. So there's nothing much more that people don't know in how Manchester United are playing and the failings that this team are coming up against this season constantly. So really, everything is all coming down on Ineos and what they decide. Now, all of the power players are going to be in this meeting, from Colette Roach, Wilcox, Berardo, Ashworth. I don't know if Jean-Claude Blanc is there, in fact, but obviously Sir David Brailsford's there, Sir Jim Radcliffe, Joe Glazer is going to be there. It's a meeting on Tuesday, which was already scheduled in, and obviously it's going to come on. It's going to come on to what's actually happening with Ten Hag and Manchester United. Obviously, it's just going to be a conversation that comes up now as part of a meeting that was already there. So, when you look at everything that's actually going on with the club as well, there's a lot to talk about. We've got the stadium, which is probably going to be spoken about in this meeting. That's coming to a head right now. You look at December being the deadline, now into October. Decision's going to have to be made with the stadium pretty soon as well. So that's obviously going to be top of the agenda. Do you know what? There are a lot of bigger things as well as the current team and the manager situation that need to be spoken about in this meeting. So, yeah, I feel like with it already being set up, it's just added extra pressure to the game, which is Aston Villa tomorrow now. And everyone assuming, and do you know what? Half of the reports that are going around are probably false. They're just guessing. A lot of the media work, a lot of the time, is guesswork when it comes to when a certain decision is going to be made. I mean, we're quoting The Athletic forever and a day, and they got it wrong in terms of saying that Sir Jim Radcliffe is the one that's going to have the final say on any sort of managerial decision or sacking of Ten Hag or keeping him. It's down to his management team, he says. So, really, are they bang on the money with everything? No, there is a lot of guesswork going on with what's happening at Manchester United. In terms of who takes over, if United do take that job off Ten Hag, look, that's for anything else to sort out. We can debate it amongst us forever and a day, but ultimately it's out of our hands, and all we can do is sit back, look at what Manchester United are doing on the pitch, what manager might actually suit the style of play for these players that we've got in this team, and hopefully someone with a brain cell within that directors group or bunch of directors which is in this meeting next week, are going to make the right decision for the team and the club going forward. It's not going to be easy. It isn't going to be easy, but it's all Ineos' fault for not making the decision early on in the summer. They knew what was there. They knew what they were watching the season before. And again, Manchester United making major footballing decisions off the back of one particular result doesn't look good for the club. And they're going to have to do it all over again, it would seem. So it's not good. It's not ideal. And yes, if there were managers out there, I agree with what's being reported. I think we've got a better chance of getting the right one at the end of the season. So, do we carry on with Ten Hag and forget about this season and write it off? Or do we bring in an interim and hope that it gets better? Because that's all it is. And sadly, no matter if you're a Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out, if you think that people have got agendas or whatever, it all comes down to poor club management, really, and the situation we're in. No one seemed to be wanting to make that big call or put their neck on the line at the start of turning of a new page at United with the new structure that's gone in. So it just looks like now we're going to see what these guys are made of. We're going to see what these decision makers at United are made of, because it's going to come, isn't it? It's going to come to a point where we actually see out the season with Ten Hag or Van Nistelrooy comes in. I think they're the only two viable options right now. I just don't think the targets that Ineos want are gettable within a season. And there's another report backing that up as well this morning, which is saying that Xabi Alonso and Julian Nagelsmann are two other managers that Manchester United would want. But it goes in the same article again. There is an understanding there that this is a very difficult decision well in the middle of a season. So, yeah, of course it is. Big decisions are made in pre-season. Obviously, signings, appointments, jobs, all get them decisions made, get them out of the way at the start of a season, at the end of a season. Do that when the season's not on. That's how it works normally. But right now, it's not. And unfortunately, it's going to come down to two men. It's going to be Ruud van Nistelrooy, I feel, or it's going to be Ten Hag carries on. And Manchester United are going to have to find a way of digging themselves out of this hole, because we are going to be losing a shed load of money this season no matter what. The article goes on to say, look, if United get into the Champions League, they get about 18 million just for being in the competition, and that would cover all of Ten Hag's compensation and everything like that if they wanted to get rid of him now. The decision that has to be made on, will Manchester United have a better chance of getting in the Champions League or further up that table this season from now with Ten Hag or with Ruud van Nistelrooy? When you look at it, that's what it comes down to. Because I don't think it's right. I mean, United should be going out and getting the right man, but if they cannot get the right man, then unfortunately, it is going to be Van Nistelrooy, which makes me feel like they won't pull the plug unless it's absolutely a disaster class. Everything that you're reading at the moment, everything that you look at, makes you feel like they're not going to pull the plug on Ten Hag, and they're going to try and see it through for as long as they possibly can. Look, at the end of the day, we don't want Potter, we don't want Southgate, and United need to make the right decision for the future, not just the short term. And I've said this before, my big worry is I don't think Van Nistelrooy is ready for this. And this is why this decision is going to be swayed that way, I feel. And he might even stay. But according to the Mirror as well this morning, Disco Davies saying that United need to beat Villa tomorrow. They need to get a positive result. What is a positive result? Tomorrow is a draw. I mean, I'll ask the chat. I'm going to come into the comments soon. But I'll ask the chat. Tomorrow against Aston Villa, do Manchester United... is a positive result a draw at Villa? I mean, on paper, you're running away from Villa with a draw right now. But the bigger picture is United have been so bad before it, it's just going to go down as more drop points. And that's going to be the narrative that's driven into this. It's like, we've not won again. It's going to be 7 games this season. We've only won 2 league games. It's the worst Premier League start ever. And that's how it's going to be looked at. And you have to accept that. You can look at it as a one-off game if you want against Villa and say, look, we've got a decent draw against Villa. That's what we need to work off and what we need to actually build this around. But again, you're falling into the trap of judging Manchester United off one game. What about the season? What about last season? What about the continuation and the consistency of this team? Is that not where we should be judging this off? And this is where I probably come in and criticise the powers that be at Manchester United for not looking at the bigger picture. It does look like we're basing our results back on, we're basing our decisions back on certain individual games. And it just doesn't make sense. I just don't believe that it should be a do-or-die game against Aston Villa. I understand the fact that everything leading up to this game has put us into this situation, but if United win it, it doesn't mean that everything's okay. And a club Manchester United size actually making decisions off the back of individual results, like we did against City in the final, because we did. I don't care what anyone else says. You cannot argue with it. We based our decisions in the summer off beating Manchester City in the FA Cup final. It gave Ten Hag the fuel to say, I've won trophies. No one was ever going to say, get rid of the manager after beating City and Pep Guardiola's City in an FA Cup final. That was like the height, wasn't it? Everyone was up. Everyone was buzzing. Everyone was full of optimism. Like, this can be turned around. And then straight away, after the high, inevitably, like it has been under Ten Hag, there is them long periods of lows. And you've got to look at that, I think, more than just one individual game. So why is this Villa game being built up the way it is? Simple. Because we've been awful for months on end. And that's why this game is what it is right now. And I think everyone's looking at Villa because it's got the international break after it. Usually big decisions like this are made during international breaks where you've got time and there's no football going on. The players are away. It's a bit easier to do. Obviously, Villa are playing very well, so everyone's expecting United to lose the game in the first place. And obviously, the pile-on that's going to come on that. My pile-on has come weeks and months before. I've always stuck to the same story, that he's not good enough. And I just feel like people are just jumping all over the game against Aston Villa and making it bigger than what it actually is. Decisions should have been made a long time ago. And no one would have been talking about this game right now. We wouldn't have been talking about trying to salvage a bleeding season off the back of this. Like, even if we beat Villa tomorrow, it doesn't salvage our season. It's one game. It's what happens after that. And I don't think he's got these players on board. I really don't. In fact, actually, this is going to surprise quite a few people, but the decisions that were made regarding players and substitutions and the whole Marcus Rashford thing, now everybody knows, you only have to go through the previous videos on the channel and look at how what my opinion's been about Marcus Rashford, for instance, and how I feel like United should have just sold him. He let the fan base down, he let the club down. I think he was a disgrace to the shirt last season in what he did, and the reaction to it was even worse for me. So, yeah, I have an opinion on Marcus Rashford, and I don't think last season, he covered himself in any glory whatsoever. But I'm going to defend him on this moment because, again, he was used as the scapegoat at Porto. And look, if you're going to have a go at him for things he does bad, then we're going to have a go at him for things that we're going to praise him for things that he does good. It's the same with everyone. And you'll see it in things like when I think Ten Hag's got it right, I'll say that he's got it right. More often than not, results and decisions determine my opinion on Ten Hag, and that is what we've been talking about the last few days. Facts, figures, and the eye test. That is everything. Marcus Rashford was thrown well and truly under the bus. What is the best form of defence? It's attack. Marcus Rashford, goal and an assist in that game against Porto. He's playing well. He's scaring the Porto defence. And you know what? If a player, and this is what I call brave footballers, if a player knows that he has to do his tracking back and things like that, are you brave enough to just hold back and give the defender or the winger or the fullback, whatever it is, whoever's marking you, that element of doubt in your head that I cannot bump forward here in case that ball gets intercepted and Marcus Rashford's away and he's got all that space. I cannot do that. There is a form of defence which is attacking, and that's what Marcus Rashford was doing. Garnacho did it as well in the second half, and I don't want to leave out Garnacho. I don't want to sort of make him out to be the bad guy in all of this, because Garnacho was fantastic in the second half as well. But there was no need to bring Marcus Rashford off and use the excuse. It's like, why would you do that knowing that there was going to be a media pile-on for Rashford being subbed off at half-time with everything going on? I'm just asking the question in general. Do you think it was a stupid decision to bring Marcus Rashford off that pitch and bring Garnacho on with everything that's going on around Manchester United right now? I thought it was. The heat map has come out and been released for Marcus Rashford and Garnacho. And the defensive capabilities and the defensive situation which Ten Hag brought up has been brought under the spotlight for Marcus Rashford. In fact, Marcus Rashford did more tracking back than what Garnacho did in that game, in both halves. He spent more time in his own half doing defensive duties, where you can argue in terms of what or how good his defensive duties were in that game. But you could still look at it and go, he was actively trying to defend. And he was still doing his job in the other end of the pitch as well. So really, it just made no sense in what Ten Hag did. And again, it just falls to me into that category of making crazy decisions and stupid decisions right now, which are not helping the situation. And I think that's where we're at with it. I just feel like Marcus Rashford has had a bad rap for that one particular game from Ten Hag and thrown under the bus by him when it wasn't necessary. And I said that all along. I don't feel like Marcus Rashford belongs at Manchester United. But if he turns it around, then so be it. And I'll praise him when he deserves praise. And I just feel like Ten Hag has got it all wrong with Rashford this season. He dropped him when he was in form, when he didn't need to. And then he brought him off at half-time against Porto when he was actually in form. And he was doing well. Look, I'm not defending Marcus Rashford for anything that he's done over the last year. I think he has let United down. But in that particular game, it just looked really weird to me. It did. It was a strange old decision. And I think Ten Hag has got a problem with the squad and balancing them out and getting them on board and things like that. Especially when, like we said last night, certain players and this Player FC sort of situation that everyone is building up again right now are under the spotlight. And like I said last night, I think we was debating it. People saying that these players are throwing the managers, the same managers on the different managers under the bus continuously. Well, Rashford and Maguire are two of them so-called Player FC players according to this fan base. And Maguire saved his job with the header. And Marcus Rashford was playing the best that I've seen him play in ages. So you can't say that them players are not behind Ten Hag. Ten Hag is the one that's deciding what to do with them players right now. And I just don't know where he's going. So right now, you've got Garnacho and you've got Marcus Rashford. Who do you play in that position off the back of what they did in Porto in the game against Aston Villa tomorrow? How does he do it? How do you decide who to play in that position? Does that Ahmad drop and one of them go on their weaker side, which is the right-hand side, that being Rashford or Garnacho? Do we drop him out? I think that's ultimately what we're expecting. And now Højlund has scored. Does he get dropped out? Because Zirkzee wasn't... Yeah, obviously, Zirkzee, you could say goals-wise, hasn't really been doing it, but he has been progressing. Then you've got to try and squeeze Ugarte into this team off the back of bringing Casemiro back. And Eriksen, who's been United's best midfielder this season, he kind of, well, trying to rotate has caused himself a little bit of an issue, I feel. And I don't know if he's able to... I don't know if he's able to actually balance it out or make it work. And that's the problem I've got. I'm going to get into the chat on everything that we've said. Talk to me about the manager's situation. Talk to me about who you would play in that team tomorrow. And what is a positive result for Manchester United. Let's get into the chat now. I'd take the Chesterfield manager along as long as he can entertain us with good football. I don't care about names. Chris says, that was from Stu. Chris says, we are not getting fourth with Erik ten Hag. Top half is optimistic. JT says, Champions League, at this point, being in the top half of the table would be a result. That's two comments I've just randomly gone to there. And United fans actually questioning whether United have got a chance of making the top half of the table. I mean, does that not tell you everything you need to know already, where this team is at and where the fan base is at and the optimism levels within Manchester United right now? That's poor, isn't it? Rafe says, we still need to move move on Rashford, who can only play hoof and chase football or when the fullback is isolated. Bruno, whose brain is designed to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible or shoot on sight. Another one with Bruno and Rashford needing to be moved out. Positive result is not conceding within the first 5 minutes of each half. Yeah, we'll look at anything as a positive right now, but that has been one thing that Manchester United have been undone by continuously this season already. Switching off in the second half especially has been horrendous. That's got to be something that they can realise is happening and they've got to sort out, surely. Ten Hag should put Ahmad on the number 10 role, Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right, and Højlund as a centre forward, says Vicky. Erik ten Hag has had enough time and money. Nothing but a win is acceptable. Ever. Never mind the one game. United Spotlight says, it shouldn't be on this game. We played 10 and won 3. There is evidence you need. There is all the evidence you need. Sorry, Joshua says so. We do Ten Hag and hope he doesn't get relegated. Again, the chat seems to switch from we had plenty of Ten Hag defensive last night. It moves all the time, doesn't it? It's like we go on to trying to talk about Ten Hag and how we can turn things around and what he can do with the team, and it's just no, it's not acceptable. We move on. Let's not accept this. As soon as you say time he needs to go, everyone's like, no. The Ten Hag inners come in and say, no, you've got to give him a chance. It's the players. We're discussing both of them right now. The players I feel are there for him to use. I actually feel right now in trying to rotate and stumbling across this, I don't think out of design Ten Hag has found a way to try and keep everybody involved in this squad. I think the problem he's got right now is trying to fit them in particular games and make it work for him. I think that's the problem that Ten Hag's got now, because I feel like we are in a spot where a lot of players are fresh, a lot of players are available to go, and he's got a lot of options. I just think now that he's got all of these options and these fit players in, I think he's actually struggling to figure out what the best setup is, because I just don't see where Agate fits in right now in this system. I'm really worried that we've got players in this team that are just not going to be able to handle what Ten Hag wants them to do. Honestly, right now, Agate, from what I've seen, he was all right against Barnsley, but I'm worrying. I'm worrying under Ten Hag whether Agate is going to be the right man for United. He was talking yesterday, Ten Hag, or the day before, about Agate just needs to learn Manchester United. He needs to adapt to United. He needs to adapt to the intensity of United. He needs to basically adapt. He needs time, he says. You haven't got time. You haven't got time. When you're falling down the league table, you haven't got time to bed players in. You need to figure out how it works. The recruitment of a player and the decision to bring a player in, and you could say I'm scaremongering here and everything like that, but we know that Ten Hag had to be convinced that Agate was the right man. It's been made very clear in many reports that he wasn't his top target. He knew of him, but he wasn't going for him. He wanted to keep McTominay and keep Amrabat. Obviously, off the back of winning the trophy and bigging up winning trophies, you probably would do, because both of them were key parts in that game against Manchester City in the final. But United's directors and United's structure wanted to move on. I don't know if Ten Hag is just playing this out the way that a lot of people are saying, in terms of he wasn't his signing, so he's not playing him as much. He's making it a lot more complicated than what it is. I don't think it is, because it was similar with Amrabat. He couldn't get Amrabat in the side at first, could he? And he couldn't get Agate. He can't get Agate in now. Casemiro's knocking on the door saying, what's happening with me? And then you're worried about a senior player in Casemiro not actually being happy. Will that affect other players? All of the other South American and Portuguese-speaking contingent within Manchester United. Is that going to affect Manchester United? He's got a lot of options there, and it's good. But certain managers, I feel, can handle that, and certain managers can't. And right now, it looks like he's struggling with it. It does look like he's struggling. He still doesn't know what his best team is. If you played, for instance, Casemiro and Eriksen in that midfield like he did against Porto, I don't think he will. But if he's looking at options, you need combative, physical, and technically gifted players in that midfield. We don't have him. We don't have that player. Whereas the likes of Villa have got what they've got in midfield and the options that they have got in midfield. Like, I don't know, Onana went off injured, and then you bring in Barkley on. Barkley, Premier League proven, is completely ready for. He was completely ready for that game against Bayern Munich when he came on the other night. So you've got Onana coming off there injured. Then you've got McGinn in there. You've got Barkley coming on off the pitch. Tillemans is there. Strong, physical, technical players. I don't think we've got that in our Man United midfield. Bruno, you can argue technical, not strong, wasteful with the ball. Casemiro, combative, yes. Technical, losing it. Energy-wise, no. Eriksen, weak, not physical enough, overpowered in that midfield. Everyone, so you try and match up Eriksen, for instance, or Bruno. Villa have got a better player in every single department of the pitch in their team than what Manchester United have. From number 1 to number 11, for instance, if you're lining them teams up right now, there isn't one Manchester United player that would get into that Villa side. Is there? Is there any? in terms of what they're doing. I think Villa fans would definitely say there isn't. You could argue on top form, you're pushing a case for the likes of Garnacho, Kobe Mainu maybe. What, defensive left? I mean, Carlos is an absolute beast. Pau Torres, who United were looking at, I thought that would be too weak for the Premier League, but Unai Emery's got him playing absolutely brilliantly. Do you know what I mean? They've got the right blend there at Villa. They've got good fullbacks. They've got a solid, awesome midfield. It really is one of the best midfields in the Premier League, I think. And now they've added Onana to that. And then you only have to look at Duran coming on off the bench. Like, Duran, he can't get in the team because you've got Watkins. And then you think as a United fan, how the hell did we come up against this? Push all your Ten Hag talk away on one side, if you want. But over the last 3 years, because let's not forget, Unai Emery came in, so let's just say 2 years. Unai Emery came in, and his first game, funnily enough, was in Ten Hag's first season. His first game was against United, and he battered us. And you're thinking, flash in the pan, new manager bounce, no problem. But in 2 years, Unai Emery has taken Aston Villa from where he was, which was on the brink in the Premier League, getting beaten by everyone, to now, where not one Manchester United player fits into that Villa side. They would not replace any player in their team for any one of Manchester United's starting 11. In 2 years, that has happened. And people say you cannot look at opposition and what they're doing. Well, yes, you can. Can United do it? We're in exactly the same position now. It's role reversed. It's a vice versa situation right now. Because we're where Villa was, and they are where we was. We were fighting in that top four in that season, and we made top four that season. And Villa have turned it around in that 2-year period under Emery, and now we're at a position where there's not one Man United player that gets into that Villa side. That is absolutely disgraceful, how Manchester United have allowed this to happen. But credit to Aston Villa, and credit to Unai Emery for actually getting that Villa side to where they are right now, where they're competing at the highest level, and they're going to qualify automatically for their Champions League knockout phases. And United scraping the barrel trying to get into the playoffs of the Europa League. How has this happened? How? Oh, it just goes to show that you have to look at, and everyone says, look at your own ship. Take care of yourself. Don't bother looking at the opposition. Sometimes you've got to. And you've got to take a leaf out of the opposition's book. And you have to make brutal decisions. And you have to find the right man that clearly understands the squad that he's got, that clearly knows how to get the best of the abilities of his team, and he knows how. There was a moment in that game at Bayern Munich, and I don't want to talk up Aston Villa. I'm only talking about it because we're actually playing them this weekend and why it scares me. And I'm still trying to figure out how Manchester United can compete with Aston Villa, because Leon Bailey was subbed on and then subbed off. And he walked right off the pitch, not even batting an eye. You know what I mean? Not even kicking up any stink at all. The respect that Unai Emery has got from them Villa players is something that we can just sit there in admiration for as United fans right now, because he has got every single player in that squad on board, and they are all in full understanding of what his vision is. Everything that he is touching turns to gold right now, because they're all invested into it. And he's done that in 2 years. He's got that full squad. Every single player that he's brought in is working. Every single player that was there has been turned around and is playing brilliantly. Everyone is progressing under Unai Emery. It can be done. It can be done. I just don't know how Man United compete with that. And when you look at it all, that is the perfect example of where Manchester United fell down. And now we're coming to this moment where it all comes down to Manchester United again at Villa Park and a crunch moment. It was the same 2 years ago for Unai Emery when he first walked through the door, and now it's gone around full cycle, and Ten Hag is on the brink because he's not been able to do what Unai Emery has done and what Villa have done. It's brilliant what Villa have done, and I am jealous of how that club has been turned around. They've got a manager there that works wonders with that team. I don't know United compete with that tomorrow. Let's get into some of the comments. Director of Football, if Erik ten Hag had a brain, he wouldn't let go of the veto rights and allowed United's new structure. That's their process. Then you could have argued it's his first season under a new regime. Season incoming. Shit season incoming. I wasn't looking at the poo emoji, sorry. Daily Thoughts, with the way things are going, they better give an academy left-back a shot on Sunday. I don't want him to. I don't want to see Hamas in this team. It's not fair on him. How can you throw an academy player into this team right now amongst these underperforming first-team players and expect him to flourish? I don't want to put him through it. That's where I'm at right now. I don't want to put these young academy lads through it. It's not fair on them. Keep them out of it. Keep them away from this Manchester United first team, I say. Let these so-called full internationals, these pro footballers, let them try and figure it out. Because they're the ones that have dug the hole. There's no way that an academy player should be coming through and taking the pressure on their shoulders for the underachievements of these first team players. This is down to Ten Hag and it's down to the players to dig themselves out of this shithole that they're in right now. I don't want any academy player anywhere near this Man United side because I don't think it's fair on him. Agate was bought for games like midweek and he put no legs in midfield. This stupid decision making has put us where we are. I can't believe that we didn't get... It's scary, isn't it? Like the two biggest signings of the summer. And obviously Lenny Yoro, I don't think would still be in this side with Ten Hag. And Manuel Agate. They look like Ineos signings. The rest, obviously De Ligt, Mazraoui, Zirkzee, they look like Ten Hag signings to me. All of them. I'm not just saying it because of the Dutch connection. But we know that he was talking to Zirkzee all summer. We know that he was looking at Zirkzee last January transfer window when Ineos weren't in charge. I did shows on that as well. So Ten Hag has been watching Zirkzee. That's a Ten Hag signing for me. And they're the ones that are getting the game time. Agate can't get anywhere near the side. He's now playing Christian Eriksen there all of a sudden, who's never played in that position. And now he's stumbled upon that. He feels like he has to keep playing Christian Eriksen there now. Or he's doing it on purpose to try and prove a point. I don't know. It's embarrassing for me to support this team right now. Look, we're embarrassed with our team, but we're always going to support the team and hope that they can actually turn things around. Adam, I really don't understand your feeling to Marcus Rashford last year. Fine, he went to a party and was that was organised by family members without him knowing. No, mate. He went on a 2-3 day bender in Belfast without the permission of the club and came back to training pissed. It's a disgrace. So I don't know, you're avoiding something there in that comment, mate. Garner changed the game, to be honest. He did good in the final third. As for tracking back, I didn't notice anything wrong because there was nothing wrong in the first place. The system was set up by Ten Hag, mate. Garnacho did do well in the second half, but Rashford did even better in the first half. That's how you've got to do it. So fed up of being a laughing stock, says Babs. I know, Babs. We need to be able to give some banter back soon, don't we? United should keep Erik ten Hag for half the season so that everyone plays United at least once. Not fair for the other teams who haven't played them. Right, it's a bit of a joke on that one. Chris says, you have answered my point. None of our players would get into most sides in the top 8 teams. Yet we are saying top 4 is a minimum. Make that make sense. Because these players right now are not playing well enough to get in the sides, I would say, Chris. We know they've got the qualities to be top 4. And we know they've got the qualities on their day to be in any of these other sides in the Premier League. But they're just not playing well enough. They're not being played in the right positions or system that helps them flourish. The point proven is Unai Emery, like I just said, turning that Villa side around. He's convinced them players that they're world beaters. Convinced them they're world beaters. And they turned it around. Yes, they've added players to it. But still, look at the core of that Aston Villa side. That's all Unai Emery. Turning players' fortunes around. making players play better, making players believe in themselves. That's the difference. That is the difference in the manager situation right now between Villa and Manchester United. And that's why their players are so confident and why they're playing well and playing with what looks like complete freedom and understanding of what they're doing. United just look lost. We can't pass the ball leading 10 yards at the moment in the Premier League without it going out of play or to an opposition player. Villa are taking the ball in positions against Bayern Munich and playing like prime bleeding Madrid. Confident on the ball, believing in their own ability, believing that they can compete at that level. That's something that I just don't think any United player believes that they should be doing at the moment. The confidence is shot, and it comes from the coaching. Not just Ten Hag as well. Like others are actually involved in this as well. Where's Haak? Where's Ruud van Nistelrooy? Where are everyone else in getting this team to where we need to be? Honestly, I do feel like the hands are tied for Haak and Van Nistelrooy because of like what Benny McCarthy was saying about Ten Hag. It's a case of, look, he has the final say and no one else gets any say. Give me your input, but ultimately, it's on me. I'm going to do what I want to do, and that's it. Simple as. That is your morning update, everybody. Saturday morning, here we go. We'll be back later on this evening. We're going to do a later show tonight because of all the football that's on. So we'll give you a chance to get through all of your day of football, and then we'll be back later on this evening. Stay tuned. Make sure you've got your notifications on as well so you know when the videos come in. It's going to be, I think, between 7 and 8 o'clock-ish, somewhere around that mark anyway. But yeah, we'll get through all of the football. We'll watch the football, and then we'll have a good old breakdown of everything that we've got to look forward to tomorrow. And we'll take it from there. Thank you, everybody, for all of your comments. Thank you, everybody, for being involved in the show. Please do comment below when the video's finished. It's live on all points that we've just talked about there on the show. But yeah, that is it. Looking forward to, well, I won't say I'm looking forward to it, but let's see what happens tomorrow. That's all we'll say. Cheers, everyone. See you later tonight.